What's up, everybody? Today's episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast is brought to you by Off the Record. You know Off the Record. You've heard us talk about them so many times at this point. You could do an ad for Off the Record. You love it. I love it. We all love it because they're providing an incredibly valuable service to the community. Even if you're not a car enthusiast, even if you're just a car owner, a car commuter, you can get tickets. Anyone can get a ticket for something stupid. Maybe for something you didn't even do. Maybe it's total BS caca poo-poo, not a real ticket. Off the Record is here for you because what they do is they find a qualified attorney to fight that ticket in a jurisdiction that you got the ticket, right? They set you up with the best, and they fight that ticket on your behalf in court with the prosecutor, the whole deal. You don't have to go to court, and you certainly don't have to plead guilty. You should never plead guilty. Instead, go to Off the Record. Go to offtherecord.com/TST or download the Off the Record app on your smartphone and use code TST10. That'll get you 10% off all your legal services with Off the Record. You do something small, you do something big, Off the Record can help get you an attorney that will fight that ticket on your behalf. Offtherecord.com/TST or code TST10 on the Off the Record app. Do it instead of pleading guilty, and you will thank me later, I promise.
All right, on this episode, Matt and I are driving a Lotus Emira to the Lotus factory in England. No, we're not driving it from Los Angeles to England, obviously. This is part of our UK trip, and we had a 3-hour drive, and we figured we should do a cruise show podcast. First, we give our take on the cars, events, and the cost of attending Goodwood, and of course, how it relates to things like Monterey Car Week, SEMA, stuff like that. Then we discuss roundabouts versus stop signs and do a somewhat scientific breakdown of our personal difficulties driving from the right-hand seat. Lastly, we answer a bunch of Patreon questions, including but not limited to which car we would drive up the Goodwood hill, why quick hands won't save Mustangs from cars and coffee mishaps, the strangely named Ineos Grenadier, cars we've seen in England that we wish we got in the United States, the strange deal that is British scrambled eggs, and which 2+2 can deliver a, quote, roadster-like driving experience. Oh, and I pronounce Alpine wrong, despite having pronounced it correctly a month ago. So I'll blame that on the lack of sleep, but save your comments.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2023 Lotus Emira. We are departing Caffeine and Machine, a amazing permanent cars and coffee establishment, restaurant, hotel, outpost outside of Stratford upon Avon in the UK. And we are driving to Hethel to drive some Lotuses on the racetrack. We thought we would record a little English countryside podcast on the way. And so here we are with you.
Welcome to the ride.
Welcome to the ride, indeed. We're following our new friend Rob from Lotus in another Emira. He's our, I don't know if the word handler is appropriate, but facilitator. He's helping us make sure that we do the things and get the things. And he's in another Emira as well. We just did 3 days at Goodwood. It was supposed to be 3 days at Goodwood Festival of Speed. Or 4 days.
Supposed to be 4. We did 3 due to high wind. The forecast was for 55 to 60 miles per hour gusts. And I guess the insurance on the whole facility said if it's over 45, they have to shut it down.
And it was windy.
It was extremely windy. And, you know, a lot of people who bought tickets for Saturday didn't get to go, which definitely sucks. Yeah. But you have to believe that the organizers had no interest in shutting down an event and losing all the money and all the vendors.
So much money.
They lost so much money, so they did not do that flippantly. I do feel bad for anyone that traveled here to go to it, but it's what they had to do.
The Emira is a good car for England 95% of the time. Mm-hmm. It's the right size for most of their roads.
Yep.
Although maybe not the side roads of Winchester when you're trying to find parking. I did have to drive on a sidewalk.
That's true, because you can park here on a road that is like 1.5 lanes wide.
Yeah.
And then you can legally park, so only the smallest hatchbacks could get past these cars without going on the sidewalk, I think.
Yeah, and like SUVs and crossovers, like the answer would just be drive on the sidewalk. But for a car like this, there's like a possible risk. I mean, it's fine. We didn't damage the car by driving on the sidewalk, but like it made me nervous and I didn't want to drive on the sidewalk. But
of course, but we also didn't want to take the mirror off on the left side.
Right. You also have to be ready to put your tire into a ditch with some sort of regularity.
I think I would wager that the average British driver is better than the average American driver at any kind of performance or precision stuff, only because you have to do it to survive here. Like on your way to work, you will have to put your left tire an inch from the white line, which is 3 inches from a hedge, to not hit an oncoming car. It's just what you have to do, because some of the roads here are much narrower than this, even though they are 2 lanes wide.
Yeah, like this one seems like it was built in the modern era. Like this is a standard size road, but like there's roads that were probably for horses and wagons at one point, and so I would say the average English driver is probably much more aware of the size of their car. Mm-hmm. You know, like Americans are as a whole, not like the car enthusiasts that listen to this show, but in general, Americans are not very good at because we've all seen it, right? We've all seen someone try to park a regular car in a space that would fit a TRX. Mm-hmm. And they just can't do it. They're unaware of the size of their vehicle.
Yes.
And you won't make it 3 days in this country if you don't know the size of your car.
You won't get anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll
Parking spaces are not standard size. The roads are not standard size. And sometimes passing is just, pretty intense.
Speaking of passing, we're passing a tractor.
Tractor.
As you do.
Lots of tractors driving down the B roads here. Although technically this is an A road. We're on the A429 right now, going towards Wellsburn. I'm gonna fuck up at least one English town's pronunciation on this drive.
Oh, of course.
I will say shout out to the Emira for the quality of their CarPlay integration. Mm-hmm. We've done probably 500 or 600 miles so far, and we have not had granted wired, but we have not had a CarPlay mishap at all.
Yeah, very true. Works pretty seamlessly, and it loads up really quickly, which is nice.
You know what I don't like? The position of your water bottle in this cup holder right now. That gets in the way of the manual transmission, which has required a few new muscles sitting on this side of the car.
Oh man, it's so much more challenging. Like, we've both been able to operate the car, of course, but when you're trying to downshift and heel toe, like, I noticed that when I was downshifting on the first and second day, my right arm was like very gently tugging on the wheel.
Oh, that's
because
funny.
it was used to being like bracing my left side and pulling with the right. It's weird.
For me, actually, like, having owned a Skyline and driven manual from this side on quite a few different occasions, I don't find it weird to shift with my left hand. But what is unique about this car is because it's mid-engine and the front wheel arch, does come in. I didn't really think about how the pedal box was offset in the US spec car to the right, as many mid-engine cars are. And on this side, it's offset the other way. Mm-hmm. And so what's actually interesting to me about the heel towing is not what I'm doing with my hands. It's actually the angle of my right foot, which normally would be, sort of straight out, and then I can hit the pedal with my toe, the brake pedal with my toe pretty easily. Now I have to really move my foot across my body to hit that brake pedal with my toe, and that has activated a muscle I'm really not used to using at all. So that really took quite a few a couple days really to get used to making that foot movement, and I can admit that I was not very good at it at first. It was a little messy for the first day.
It's amazing how much muscle memory we have in our feet for driving.
Yeah.
And just the slightest change of an inch or two, it kind of throws everything off a little bit, even if it's subconscious.
Well, and interestingly, like, it's not, I've only noticed it in this car because of that offset pedal box. Like, Skylines don't have an offset pedal box like that because they're a traditional front engine car setup, and the pedals are just kind of straight in front of you. And so it's a quirk of a right-hand drive mid-engine manual transmission car.
Right.
So that's fun. But Goodwood is I would say, a must-see. You know, some of my English friends are a little jaded about it, you know, because it's busy and parking there sucks, and it's gotten probably more and more crowded over the years, you know, and it might be past the days where it's this sort of cool new thing.
Right.
It's like almost replaced major motor shows.
Well, yeah, they said that they've closed the British Motor Show. I don't know what year they closed that, but that's gone. And so more manufacturers have kind of come into Goodwood Festival of Speed and made that a place to debut concept cars, new supercars, all these other things, which I think, you know, it's nice to have options. It's cool to have both, I guess, but if you have to choose one, I'd much rather have an event that is part hill climb burnout demonstration.
Yeah.
And then you add in...
At least they're running the concept cars up the hill.
Yeah, they're driving the cars versus going to, you know, these conference centers or the Coliseum, whatever it is, like the Staples Center, and there's a bunch of cars parked on carpet and a bunch of lights, and you just walk around and look at them on a stage.
Yeah, like they demonstrably work.
Yeah, most of them do, yeah.
Yeah, most of them do. That Hispano-Suiza thing never really seemed to make it all the way up the hill. But I think it's a fine place to debut cars. I mean, it's better than, like, like the Quail at Pebble Beach is where a lot of these hypercars are getting debuted.
True.
You've got, instead of it being like this sort of celebration of historic, you know, it's, quote, a motorsports gathering, right? So instead of being a celebration of race cars, which is where it kind of started, it's now every manufacturer of a hypercar has a stand that's like $1 million, you know, and it's where Koenigsegg and Bugatti and Ramatz and Gordon Murray and all these other people, Pagani, are debuting their new cars to a highly targeted audience of people that are spending $1,200 a ticket.
Right. And it makes sense from a business perspective, of course, but all of these things are reminding me of, you know, the band that you thought was cool before people knew about it. Because the Quail used to be like a kind of unknown event within Pebble Beach, and then it became the cool place to go, and you might get a glimpse of a very special car. And now it's the standard, like you said, where the companies have to be there, they have to debut a car there, and people expect it, I think.
Yeah, but this wasn't the Quail. I mean, tickets are not $1,000. They're like $80 or $100, which isn't nothing.
No, someone said it was like 300 pounds.
For a day or for the weekend?
Ooh, I don't know.
Well, if it's a day, that's a lot. If it's for the weekend, I'm not sure. I thought Anthony said it was like 80 or 100. Maybe
I hope that's right.
Maybe
let me look it up real quick.
You could easily spend 300 in a day between the very expensive food and coffee and parking passes and all that kind of stuff. But it's not like, even if it's an expensive day, it's not totally out of reach for regular people.
Well,
it's not like it's 1,000.
Well, and I also think it's you make it a very special thing. You know, it's expensive if you're a younger person, but I think it's a really special event that is worth saving up for a couple of months and going to. I thought it had everything you could want from a car show in one place. You know, it's like when SEMA didn't have drifting demonstrations and whatnot. All you did was go into a show hall and see these cars and go, man, I wish I could hear this thing run. Yeah. And this place has that demonstration area, which is the hill, but you're not as removed from it as you are at SEMA, where there's a bunch of K-rails and safety stuff. yeah, I just think it's really unique and really fun.
And I don't know if this would ever fly in America, the hay bales.
No way. They go flying, man.
Like the fact that there is a pretty minimal barrier in between the crowd and the cars is. That was unfortunately tested when Grant Williams' Jaguar lost not just a wheel, but an entire assembly of a wheel, tire, and brake.
And the inboard brake.
And the brake that came off this dude's car while drifting, an old Jaguar, and bounced over the hay bales and into the crowd. Fortunately, nobody was seriously hurt. And not only do I say that on behalf of the person who was not seriously hurt and the poor guy who has to live with himself, or live with his car, but it would be a massive bummer if someone was seriously hurt and subsequently they had to put up very tall catch fencing, which would further separate the people from the cars, the ability to get even a great video just from an iPhone.
Absolutely. Having a fence in the way, even though you can see through it just, you feel so removed from that experience versus like, I don't know, it feels like you're just watching friends, I think, demonstrate their cars.
Right.
Because you're so close to it. It kind of feels like you are out with friends on a back road and watching things rip up and down because of that access. Like the start line, you can get so close to the hay bales, much closer than you can at the turns, of course, because all the force is going away from you.
Right.
And people are just standing there getting video of old F1 cars, lighting their tires up, or EVs, or drift cars, or whatever. Where these tickets go.
And there are obviously a bunch of EVs now, and some of them, like the Ramott's Navara, are just ridiculously fast. Even some of the SUVs. Did you see the Rolls-Royce Spectre? The electric Wraith?
I think I watched it go by.
I saw it, pass while we were there, but then last night on Goodwood's Instagram, I watched its timed run. Bro, the thing was mobbing.
Really?
Yeah, it was
not slow. You knew what it ran?
56.
Okay.
Which, it's not, the hypercars are in the 40s.
Yeah.
But we're still talking about what is probably a, 6,000 pound, coupe the size of a Suburban. It's there. We saw it in the supercar paddock, which look, I realize we're a little jaded by supercars because we drive them and we experience them up close and personal a lot. And there are a lot of supercars in this country, not just at Goodwood, but the number of Huracans and Ferraris and McLarens and Porsche GT cars I've seen here driving on the street rivals California. Especially, it's impressive considering the weather. But in the supercar paddock, where all the cars were sort of backed into their pop tents, the Rolls-Royce Spectre was there, and it stuck out like 4 feet into the crowd, creating this like traffic jam.
They do look incredibly long, even on their stage, at the Rolls-Royce stage.
Huge.
They are massive vehicles.
They're huge.
Quick correction, you were right about the tickets. They were like 70 British pounds
per day.
Adult tickets for Festival of Speed started at £54 and £67 for the Revival.
Oh, okay.
So that's early bird rates, but that's pretty good.
It's not ridiculous. That's a good day out, and it's not an insulting amount of money for a regular ticket.
Not at all.
And even with a regular ticket, you get a lot. If you get a grandstand ticket, you can go to like any of the grandstands, and there's a bunch of different places to sit and watch the cars go by, and you can see all the exhibits. You can get really close to the cars. You can interact with the drivers. Unless it's like someone who's got like security or something.
It reminds me of grid life in that way, where there's no ropes in front of the cars.
Right.
So you could you and I walked behind things that cost $10 million, and we're looking at control arms and stuff, and there was a guy underneath the car fixing something on one of them.
I felt a little weird. That was on the Brabham V16.
What a weird thing.
Yeah, it was a very weird car, and this dude is laying on the ground wrenching, and I'm kind of hovering over him. And I said to myself, I shouldn't stand here right now.
That was the first car I've ever seen that had an engine that is not oriented exactly in line with the rest of the car. It was like canted to the right.
Yeah, it was on an angle
8
a little
degrees.
bit. Yeah.
So funky.
I don't know. I mean, it has to. If I had to take a guess, and somebody probably knows exactly why, it's probably so that the drive shaft or the prop shaft doesn't go directly underneath the driver's balls.
Probably.
It's probably by doing that the driver could sit a few inches lower. If I had to take a guess,
that's a good point.
It sounded like two NASCARs running side by side up the hill. It was so cool. And you know, they're just like, they're firing up and warming up and tuning the carbs on old F1 cars and old Can-Am cars, and so
the 250 GTO bread van.
Yeah,
we heard that from like half a mile away.
Yeah, and so you really have the ability to almost like, you know, like you said, like grid life, but the cars are not $20,000; they're $20 million.
Yeah,
and so it's a very unique experience, and it's definitely worth doing, even though like there's things where we go to them for work and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a shit show, like a SEMA or like some other events. But if you're into cars as a hobby, it's still totally a thing you want to be doing.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, you have to get here, but if you live here, the ticket price is a lot cheaper than Pebble Beach is now.
Oh,
Pebble Beach tickets are hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I think like $500.
And Pebble Beach is cool, but if you want to see, it's all spread out around the city. Like, you need to drive from Pebble Beach Golf Course to the Italian, concours, and then you have to drive up to Laguna Seca for the historic stuff. Like, you need to be in a car a lot of the time. And this, you just walk around the whole thing. It just feels accessibly sized without feeling small.
Yeah. But and the car park was full of great stuff.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of real enthusiasm in this country, and across tastes, across income levels, across ages. Lots of supercars, yes, but also lots of interesting hatchbacks, lots of cool camper vans.
Yeah.
They've got some really cool camper vans here. In America, our camper vans everyone wants an overlanding camper van, whereas here I think people are a little more like, we drive these on the road most of the time, and so we don't need big off-road tires on our camper van.
Yeah, I mean, well, the environment influences the vehicles so much here, and you see that in every way. I mean, we didn't see the biggest pickup truck we saw, other than the one that was on the track, are Rangers. You see a few Rangers here and there in this country.
Dude, even right here, here's a Volkswagen Amarok, which we don't get in our country, which I'm very surprised by. It seems like they could have federalized that. That seems pretty big here.
It does.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by Groove Life. Groove Life, makers of the coolest low-profile belt out there. Are you still using the same belt you got in 2003? If you were in college, junior high, high school, grade school, preschool, or maybe you were 80 years old, just coming out of retirement, going into retirement, you got a gold watch and you got a belt. That was 20 years ago. Time to update your belt and move into this century and this decade with the belt from Groove Life. I like this belt because I needed something that fell between formal wear and heavily informal let's go camping wear. My leather belts had dried out. Some of them had dust on them from filming in the desert. I needed something that worked every day, but looked really slick, and this does the job. The Groove belt has proprietary webbing, which is engineered with just the right amount of stretch. It feels tough, but it does not feel elastic. And it has this cool belt buckle that snaps using rare earth neodymium magnets, really strong magnets that are set in an aluminum alloy. It's really cool. We've all had those belts that just clamp down on a fabric and they don't grip that strong, which also eventually tear the fabric up. And on the other side, you have the traditional leather belt with the piece of metal that goes through the hole. And speaking of slim, this buckle includes something they call Stiff Tech, which is just a fancy way of saying there's no annoying belt flap that needs to be tucked in to a second loop on your pants. It kind of disappears. Whatever happens to your Groove Life gear, they are here to help. Groove Life has a 94-year, no BS warranty. So this thing will be the last belt you'll ever need, and it will probably outlast you and your car. The belts and buckles come in a ton of different colors, so you can kind of tailor them for the activity, whether it's for your office or a weekend thing or an event or a certain wardrobe, certain pants, certain shoe. Very, very flexible in that way. Plus, it never needs to be adjusted. You just put it on and forget about it. And Groove Life also has a ton of other cool gear to keep you on the go. You've got a wallet that attaches to your iPhone. They have some cool rings, a Apple Watch watch band, and my favorite, they have the Groove Wallet, which is a slim metal wallet. It's very durable. It's got a clip on the outside. It fans out your credit cards when you push a button. And most importantly, it has an RFID blocking integrated into the wallet, which I like because I had one of my card numbers stolen when I was down in Mexico last year. And what do you know? Sign into my credit card and see that I am getting charged $25 a day for a company that doesn't really exist. Groove Life has grown from a side project into a company that provides for over 100 families. They've actually been recognized by Incorporated Magazine as one of the fastest growing companies in the USA. It's time to bring your belt into the 21st century. Head to groovelife.com/tire, that's TIRE, for 20% off all Groove Life products. That is the best offer you're going to find, but you have to use our link. groovelife.com/tire. You get 20% off your entire order. One more time, that's groovelife.com/tire for 20% off your entire order. We are also brought to you today by GameTime.co. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful, but oh my God, is it? I recently wanted to buy tickets to see Eddie Izzard perform in Los Angeles. He's finally back on tour after a long hiatus, and it was a really stressful situation. I set an alarm for 10 o'clock in the morning when the tickets went on sale. I logged into this other site as quickly as I could, and then I had to quickly look at their bad rudimentary map, try to figure out where I wanted to sit, what I was willing to pay for those seats, click purchase, and hope that those tickets were still available by the time I went to complete my order. Game Time gets rid of all of that. It is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. There's killer deals on last-minute tickets, and with their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and just get hyped for the fun you're going to have. These are flash deals on last-minute tickets. It's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, and you get images of the seat views, which is awesome. Now I can actually see what view I'm going to have when I sit in that seat. Why every website doesn't have this, I don't understand. This is what makes Game Time so awesome. Now, speaking of Eddie Izzard, I went to the Game Time site, gametime.co, typed in Eddie Izzard. What do you know? There are tickets available for his shows in October, the same ones that I was so stressed about getting. And you know what? I could have forgotten about planning months in advance to get those tickets. I didn't need to set an alarm. I didn't need to make 3 calendar events to remind me so I didn't forget. I could have just used Game Time. Game Time has the deals on the tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you will always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less money, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's great. You buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps and you're set. The tickets get sent directly to your phone, and that way you don't have to dig through your email, which you have to do with a lot of other ticket companies, let me tell you what. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code SMOKINGTIRE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code SMOKINGTIRE for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
I do like I mean, obviously it's driven in part by their environment, right? The size of the roads and the price of the gas, which is really, really expensive here. But there's a lot more pragmatism when it comes to buying the vehicle that you actually need, as opposed to some big behemoth type of thing that you're not really going to use the capabilities of. It's not like people don't tow here. It's not like people don't tow race cars. They tow with smaller things.
Well, I mean, I think the things they tow also tend to be lighter. I mean, their tow campers here look thin and small, and as we've seen on numerous Top Gear episodes, like, they're built pretty thin and flimsy.
Yeah.
And I mean, campers are always meant to be as light as possible, but I think they're a little heavier in the United States. But I asked some people if the crossover is taking over here, or if the wagon and hatchback are still really popular. And they said it's still all about hatches and wagons. I mean, you see them all over the place, but modern crossovers just seem really big and unnecessary here.
Yeah, on these roads, because you really, like, on our roads, we have very often, and obviously there are exceptions, but very often the sharpest turns that you take in America are like 90 degrees, and they're at 15 miles an hour. They're slow. The handling limits do not need to be as good most of the time. A crossover for most people handles fine. But here, when you're going through these roundabouts, sometimes pretty quickly, handling does matter more.
There's chicanes all over the place.
Yeah, it's a country full of fast chicanes and narrow roads. The British complain about them. They complain about the quality of their B roads. They joke that the tarmac quality sucks, but I think mile for mile, they're actually better than most roads in America. Some are old and bumpy, but we have like these A roads and their motorways are much better tarmac than most roads in America.
That's true. Yeah, the tarmac on the highways is really good, and some of the roads around Goodwood had very like modeled bumpy tarmac.
Yeah,
and that was pretty rough. But we were also on some yesterday that were really nice and butter smooth.
Yeah, I mean they don't have like it doesn't seem like the roads that are frequently traveled. Like in California, some of our busiest roads are like crumbling and shitty and full of potholes and poorly patched potholes and stuff like that. Whereas here, the roads that are not maintained well are much lower traveled. There's like 5 houses down a road, and maybe Waze sends you down there for some reason, but the roads where most cars drive on are maintained pretty well.
Yeah, true. I don't know. I really want to bring like German tarmac engineers to Los Angeles and have them give a symposium to whoever's doing the patchwork in LA, because it's so bad.
Well, what they do in Germany, from my understanding, and if there's a German out there who wants to correct me, please do in the comments or something, they don't patch potholes in Germany. They cut the whole section of road out and replace a much bigger square with a full new foundation. They don't just fill from the top.
Oh, wow.
They cut the whole section out and then replace it from the bottom. And so that's why, like, when there's like road works in Germany and construction, it takes a little longer. It creates a little more problems when they're doing it. But then when they fix it, it's actually fixed.
Got it.
It's not like the fucking pothole at the corner by my house where someone showed up at 2 a.m. and like dumped a bunch of hot asphalt in there and just went like tap 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 with a shovel and then left, and now 6 months later it's dead, it's fucked again.
They just drive across it in an F-150. They go back and forth a few times like they're rolling pizza dough.
Yeah,
and they're like, that's good.
They actually they do it right,
which is more expensive, of course, and they don't have earthquakes. I mean, I know that our roads deal with a lot, but they are repaired in a very cheap way.
Well, and we also have heavier vehicles, I think, in general. We have more big, heavy trucks. They obviously have, here are some right here. They have semi-trucks here. It's not like they don't have semi-trucks and dump trucks, but we have heavier vehicles on our roads.
I wonder, that's more because we have pickup trucks, SUVs. I bet the average weight of cars in America is greater than here.
Yeah, for sure. This is a large, oh Jesus. That truck is like turned down on us. I thought it was gonna turn like way down.
He's closing the door on you. You gotta get in there.
Gotta get my nose in, like JB says.
Exactly.
A Coda in a NASCAR. Did you see the burnout he did for his last run?
It was like the entire straightaway.
He did a burnout in that Garage 56 car that was, like he said, he did a burnout as if that car never had to drive anywhere ever again for the rest of its life.
Yeah, which it may not. It probably doesn't. Getting retired and parked in Hendricks Museum or whatever. I mean, I hope they bring it out for exhibitions and stuff in the future, or run it again. It's such a cool thing.
The other thing that bugged me out about driving in this country that I had forgotten for a while because of my Japanese cars, when you drive on the right, the blinkers are flip-flopped. In England, steering wheel's on the right, blinkers still on the left. So that one caught me up for a second.
Which is easier for someone coming from America who hasn't driven a right-hand drive Japanese car, but
if you're used to
that, then you get flipped around. Yeah.
So I definitely activated the wipers once or twice when I didn't want to. But it's okay. Got a nice little dappled sky here to work with.
This has been a pretty good road trip car.
I'm telling you, this is a touring spec. The one we had in our test in America was a sport, and the touring is, I think, the way to go unless it's your special weekend car for track days or whatever. You could drive this touring spec car every single day. I mean, maybe not in the snow, but certainly it's good in the wet. It's very comfortable. The power is plenty. The fuel economy is decent.
Yeah.
The trunk space is a little not ideal, but it's fine.
I mean, we brought, I guess, a lot of stuff here. We brought more than two people would bring for a 4-day trip, because we have a camera case and an additional bag, like literally stuffed with podcast cables. So those things, or our suitcases rather, are in the other car with Rob.
But
not having a frunk is just
that's not great.
Big point against.
That's not great. I mean, that's where my Porsche wins.
Yeah.
Not just mine, in fact, all of them.
Right.
The frunk is very useful. In my Boxster, I have a front and a rear trunk, and I have frequently used both at the same time. This has the shelf back here, so we've got 2 backpacks behind us. And if it was just me and Zack on a vacation, 360, on a vacation for a week, then we could do it without the video gear, without the podcast gear. 2 duffels, 2 backpacks, fine.
Yeah,
doable. But the rear trunk behind the engine, it's a bit of an awkward space, and so you can't really fit a carry-on in that space properly. You could fit duffels, 2 duffels, but they have to be soft-sided.
Yeah, you have to parallel park our camera case in there a very specific way.
Like my Porsche can fit 2 carry-ons in the front.
Oh,
which
wow.
is, I mean, that's nice.
Speaking of luggage, did you see the Koenigsegg Gemera's luggage in the back? It's 4 perfectly formed identical pieces that lock in the back little trunk area, and you have to put them in, you drop them in and push one to the right, then one to the left, and then the 2 more in the middle. I mean, it looks so nice, and it's the only way you're going to be able to fit anything in that car, because there's no other cargo space. But damn it,
I disagree about no other cargo space. There are 8 cup holders.
That's true.
You could fit 8 beverages. I mean, is that... How do you think... I mean, I know Koenigsegg is so interesting because there's always been room for cup holders. All Koenigsegg's have had 2 cup holders, which I think is really interesting when it's like when other manufacturers that are making these very futuristic and lightweight interiors that are really designed to make you feel like you're in a race car, Koenigsegg has always prioritized a beverage. Or just like accepting that you stick your phone in the cup holder or something like that. But the fact that the 4-seater Gemera has 8 is pretty hilarious.
Water and coffee, I think.
It could be water and coffee, or it could be water and a phone, or anything.
People need places to put things.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was a complaint either from their customers that had bought previous Koenigsegg's, or from customers coming out of other cars. I think it's smart. I feel like it's sometimes hard to get the blip right, like a light blip at the low end before the boost kicks in, and then you dip a little bit more pedal, and all of a sudden it revs higher.
I am 100% certain it has to do with the position of the pedals on this side of the car relative to my body. They're much, much further off to the left than I am used to.
And sounds good though.
I have to say, I very much like driving in this country. I like that for very long periods of time, you don't typically have to stop. because of roundabouts.
Yeah.
Yes, there's traffic, as if you're looking across the highway and on our video right now, like traffic does exist here, but it's not like it's not that bad actually. I mean, granted, we're not in London,
right?
And so
we're between cities here.
But like I do like their road system here. I think in some ways more than I like our own. It's nice to drive here. Diving in, buddy.
It saves clutch life as well. It just keeps things moving. I mean, not, we're on the main freeway here, so there's not going to be a roundabout, but on the A roads, which often move as quickly as the highways, the speed limits are 70 miles per hour. When there's a little town or a gas station or something you get to, instead of having, red light, four-way intersection, you slow down, you go around the roundabout, then you dip out on whatever exit you need. It just seems so efficient and keeps everything moving and saves brake wear, clutch wear. It's awesome. It just makes so much sense. The only roundabout I've seen in Los Angeles area was in Pasadena, and it had stop signs also, which makes no sense.
You do not understand the purpose of the roundabout, sir.
So dumb.
This, having said that, we've just pulled up to one that has a light.
Damn it.
Oh, it's not a roundabout though. This is just a light.
They do exist.
And actually, their lights are better too. The lights have a yellow before the green, which is the get ready to go signal. Put your car in gear and begin the process. I think it helps.
It's such a smart system.
Yeah.
We need that, especially, in the last couple of years, more and more people sit at red lights and look at their phone. And then the number of times you have to honk at someone because they're not paying attention. Having the yellow light flash before it goes to green will be such a good thing to do.
It is this type of driving that you do in this country makes it much, much harder to use your phone while driving.
That's true.
Like, much harder. And I think that's a good thing. Your eyes, your hands, and your feet have more to do. And you spend less time just kind of either going totally straight or stopped.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And someone's gonna tell me, someone English is gonna go, when you get used to it, you can be on your phone just as much. But like, man, what a nice car though.
Yeah.
They're gonna sell a lot of these things. These
seats are very comfortable.
They're good. I have enjoyed. We only got the car for 24 hours in America, so we only really got to go from the shop to the shoot and back. We didn't really have time to live with it. But aside from the uniquely shaped trunk, which can be worked around, it is a very nice car to live with.
And I think this one this is the first edition. So it has the optional 12-way seats, which you definitely want.
Oh yeah, I don't know what the other seats are. The one we got in America was the first edition as well.
Yeah, but they're really adjustable and they're very comfortable.
It's got lumbar.
Yep.
You definitely want. In an expensive sports car, if you're not going to have like the full-on carbon buckets, then you want lumbar. I really like the power band on this car.
Yeah.
It's very linear. It builds really nicely. You got torque everywhere but the bottom. It really doesn't have a lot of torque below 2,000, but most cars don't.
Yeah, with the exception of like turbocharged BMWs and big block V8s.
Yeah.
Most things don't.
And it makes a very pleasant sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey folks, got to take a break from the show for Factor. Now that we're in the thick of summer, Matt and I are busier than ever. Summertime is press car time. There are launches, there are long trips, there are long flights. We're doing project cars. We're working on our own cars outside of project cars. We have a lot going on, and that means we need wholesome, convenient meals that will support our active, busy days. Factor, which is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, helps us and can help you fuel up fast with flavorful, nutritious, ready-to-eat meals that get delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, you'll eat well, and you'll stay on track reaching your goals. Here's why I like Factor. As many of you know, I had a back injury, which basically kept me out of the gym and out of any activity for 6 to 8 months, and I hate that. I've always been a very active person. So now that I'm kind of back to working out and being active and trying to get back in shape, that means I'm trying to eat as healthy as I can and build back all the muscle I lost while I was laid up. So I need to be getting good macronutrients, lots of protein, putting back on some of those lost pounds and muscle so that I can do things like play with my dog, do sports, go surfing, carry camera cases, or even just walk up and down the mountain filming cars. But sometimes we are so busy with this job that it is very hard to eat healthy stuff or eat at all. We might come down from a shoot on the mountain and we arrive at the office with 10 minutes or 20 minutes until we're supposed to do a podcast. After the podcast ends, I'll have to edit the show, then drive home, do stuff with the dog. Then after that, I have another thing to do, and then I have to go to a class, or maybe I have to do something with my fiance. There's just, the day piles up really, really quickly. But with Factor meals, we can very quickly put one of their ready to eat, never frozen meals in the microwave. We microwave it for 2 minutes, dump it onto a plate. It looks really good. It tastes really good. Look, I get the Protein Plus meals. They have 30 grams of protein or more per serving. That helps me reach my goal of 160 grams or more per day. They are delicious. They are flavor packed. They're really tasty. There's a lot of vegetables in them, a lot of good carbohydrates. If you're too busy during the day to think about lunch, you can actually use their lunch to go, which are effortless, wholesome meals like grain bowls and salad toppers that are all ready to eat without a microwave. And they can tailor these to your diet plan. Like I said, I like Protein Plus. They also have Calorie Smart meals that have less than 550 calories per serving. Or you can go with the vegan ones, or keto, or again, Protein Plus. All of these things, it's a really simple process. You just tick that box, and then the menus populate with all of their options that fit that criteria. And then you can choose which items you like the most based on those ingredients. And with Factor, you are rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. Factor offsets 100% of their delivery emissions. They source 100% renewable electricity for their production sites and offices, and they feature sustainably sourced seafood in their meals. So this summer, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed stuff delivered to your door. So head to factormeals.com/tire50 and use code tire50 to get 50% off. That's right. You have to go to factormeals.com/tire50 and then use code tire50 and you will get 50% off.
So today we're going to go to Hethel. That's where we're driving right now, which is the home of Lotus. We are going to get to try the AMG powered one. Lotus AMG.
Yeah. Four-cylinder turbo, 8-speed automatic transmission.
Dual clutch.
Or dual clutch.
It's 8-speed dual clutch transmission. So, what are your expectations, you think, of that?
I think it will shift very, very quickly, which will obviously be a benefit compared to this, although this is more fun. I'm curious what the power band's going to be, because they take AMG's engine and then they retune it, to make it feel the way they want it to feel for the Lotus, and they tune the transmission a little bit, some software changes. I'm just curious what they do with the power band. Do they try to make it lower than this car, or do they try to make it higher, or try to make it feel the same? Because there's so many options when it comes to tuning turbochargers.
What is it, 360 horsepower?
Yeah, 360. So it's a little bit more than the Cayman's 4-banger turbo.
Yeah.
And it's like 70 more horsepower than the Alpina A110s.
Right.
But when you look at the power to weight ratio of all three of those cars, it's basically the same. Because the Alpina weighs like 330
You always say Alpina. It's Alpine.
I have been DM'd and told that it's Alpina.
It's not Alpine? Alpine? Alpine?
2 weeks said it was Alpina.
I don't think that's right.
Well, all right. We'll ask someone, or we'll ask one of you folks. If you live in France.
I think Alpina, the German BMW tuner, is Alpina. And I think the French Alpine, Alpine. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Alpine.
I'll see if I can. If I can Google it.
A pronunciation check. Yeah, I don't think it's I think it's E. So but this car should be about the same power to weight as the A110 and the Cayman S, right? You're lost in thought.
I'm lost in this.
I haven't driven a quote 45 engine in a Mercedes in about 5 years, maybe more. The GLA 45 was the last one, and it was quite some time ago. So without having one back to back, it's going to be very tough for me to go, well, here's what's different in this car from what Mercedes does in their car.
Oh yeah, that's true.
My recollection about those cars was they had more engine than chassis.
Yeah, they're pretty like raucous.
They're pretty rowdy.
I mean, they pulled real hard, a little bit of torque steer, all that kind of stuff. I think it'll be very fast, and I'm actually happy because we're driving on the track that I can't money shift, because it's not a manual. Because I've done that once while driving right-hand drive on a racetrack.
Yeah.
Because driving around town, we've both had to kind of pay a little bit of attention, a little more attention to how we're driving than when we're on the left side of the car.
Yeah.
And especially for me with downshifting, my arm is going the opposite direction that it normally goes. When you're sitting in the left side of the car, you are pulling towards yourself as you go down in the gears. But here we're pushing away, and I'm right-handed, so I'm using my weaker arm. So all of that is to say that the odds of me downshifting incorrectly while trying to go hard into a corner are more than zero. So I'm glad I can just pull a paddle and it'll figure it out for me.
Yeah. In order to make car videos effectively, and I don't know if how much people appreciate this, but if you've ever done a driving school, they talk about the 100 points thing with your tires.
Uh-huh.
And you have 100 points of grip with your tires, right? And if you are accelerating at 100% throttle, then that's using 100% of your grip. If you're accelerating at 50% throttle, then you could also use 50% of the tire to turn. Same with the inverse. If you're at 100% of the brakes, you can't also steer, so you only have 100 points to be distributed, right?
Right.
So when you're making car videos, you need 100% of your brain to be focused on something besides what your hands and feet are doing. You don't have to be good enough at driving to like set the pole at Le Mans, but you have to be good enough at driving to where you do not have to think about what your hands and feet are doing, because your brain needs 100 points to think about talking to the camera. Mm-hmm. That requires 100 points. So you need to know the track, and you need to know the car. And so if you are driving a car with your other hand on the shifter, even if you're a very good driver from the left seat, now you're in the right seat and you've got to shift, it takes 10 or 15 of those points
for sure
to do that.
Yeah.
And so until you have enough practice to where you don't need, now you're down to 2 points or 3 points to do that, then it becomes very challenging.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have that problem on the track. I need those 5 points on the road though. Like when we were, driving through the city yesterday and looking for parking, I needed some of those points for that. Like here on the road, I don't need, I'm 100 points on the camera on this podcast right now, and 0 points towards using my left hand to change gear.
Right, but what if you are on a track, fourth gear flat out, and then you have to downshift 3-2?
Also 100 points focused on the task, because I've done it enough. But in a busy town center with a bunch of cars and people around, now more so than if I was in America, with driving over there, because of those exterior circumstances, taking up some of those points, I then have to allocate other points.
That's a good way to explain it. Yeah.
But you personally haven't done quite enough on track, super high performance right-hand drive.
I've done it once.
Yeah, so that's not enough.
And you owned a right-hand drive car, and I've never owned a right-hand drive car. So, in that instance, I had been driving one for a day, and then I had to chase a car, so that was challenging. Yeah, it's all about practice.
And I did a few days in Japan with that R34 Skyline, and I did a couple trips to England with JF and Harris, where we were filming a variety of right-hand drive manual cars, and in New Zealand A lot of right-hand drive manual cars there on the track, and so I've had enough experience where, absent other input, me on a track, no problem. Me in a very crowded city on farmers market day.
Well, low
fucked.
blood sugar too. You were
caffeine crash.
You were a little flustered
very
yesterday.
hungry, and I wanted to make sure we got to Caffeine and Machine in time to set up for the show. And it was very busy when we got there. So that's the 100 points of driving right-hand drive while making car videos. Interestingly, speaking of the 100 points, because we're doing this podcast now and my brain is thinking about that, I am not paying attention to the GPS. Like, thank God I have a bright yellow car to follow.
Very true.
Because, like, normally throughout our drive, like, I'm looking down at the GPS, like, every minute or two, where do we go? But I haven't looked at it in like 5 minutes, 6 minutes, so it's a good thing, A, that we're on this highway for 58 miles, and B, that I have a very bright yellow car to follow. How's our batteries? Are we okay with the batteries? Looking good?
That's one bar.
It's interesting. I haven't heard it die. Still,
that's fine.
Plenty of juice. All right.
That's fine.
Yeah, battery power, 1080p. Everyone, when we went at Caffeine and Machine yesterday, when we said, we're driving to Hethel today, everyone was like, ugh. Apparently this drive is, like, by British standards, not a good drive because it's just a long highway. But by American standards, this is actually quite beautiful. Very green. The tarmac is good. We're moving.
Yeah, nice clouds. It's pretty landscapes. We've gone around a lot of farmland here.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see. And then we drove through what was a national forest on the way to the motoring museum. That's why I remember all of a sudden it opened up like this safari plain, and there were cows and deer, and I thought we were in Jurassic Park.
Wild horses. I don't know if they were wild, but they were not.
No, they were.
They were fully.
The people said. And it's like a national protected forest that you drive through on your way to the National Motor Museum.
Yeah, it was
just cool.
You know what's something that's not good about the Emira? Wasn't good in America, not good here? Not taking advantage of the fact that this is a digital gauge cluster. The tachometer is a bar what do we call that type of tach? It's not a round gauge with a fake needle.
I mean, it's trapezoidal.
I mean, it's
polygonal.
Just a line that grows across the top of the gauge pod.
Yeah.
Right?
It looks like most people's income. It goes up for a bit, and then it's flat, and then at the end of the life, it actually goes down. I mean, literally, it's shaped like this, folks, for those who are watching.
But also is the steering wheel.
Yes.
It is the same shape of the steering wheel, and if I put the steering wheel where the steering wheel needs to be to drive, granted, my arms are slightly T-Rex-like. I have a long torso, somewhat long legs, and short arms, but if I put the steering wheel where it needs to be, I can right now see, in a comfortable driving position, from 0 to 1,000 on the tach.
But it's the same for me, and we're very different heights, but it's the same exact thing for me, and I don't know who sets up the interiors and the ergonomics of these cars or what height they are. Maybe they don't do enough market research. It's not just Lotus that does this. We've had a number of cars that have digital dashboards where they could put information wherever they want, and I'm sure there's a lot of committees involved in this, but it seems like too frequently the tach is hidden behind the steering wheel in a performance car where the tachometer information is very, very important. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, like, and it's also an LCD screen. Like, you're telling me there isn't an alternate menu?
Well, like, if we flip this, because right now on the bottom of our screen we have our range and the outside temperature.
Yeah.
If we put that on the top and then the tach on the bottom, you can see the tach the whole time.
Yes.
Because the amount of times you need to look at what your your fuel level is or the outside temperature is far less frequent.
Yeah, like the tach's the only thing I can't see.
Yeah,
I can see the center section with my trip information or my radio settings, the speed, the gear indicator. I can see everything except the thing I actually want to see, which is, I mean, fortunately, I know what this engine sounds like, and unless I'm on a track and going for every last RPM, I know when to shift. So it doesn't take away from the experience that much, but like I would really love the opportunity to change the layout of this screen just a little bit to one where I can see at least some of the tack. Drives me mildly insane. That is a
Whoop.
No, that was me putting my glasses back on. Sorry. We wandered lanes a little bit there. Do we have some things on the old Patreon?
We have lots of things on the Patreon.
All right, great. Let's go to the Patreon. You guys know it. Patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. Get an ad-free listening experience. Get your questions answered on the air. Get access to my extremely limited watch collab with Lotus coming next month, and a whole lot more. What you got?
All right. Gunnar Ray asks, if you could go up the hill in anything, the Goodwood Festival of Speed Hill, of course, what would be your weapon of choice?
It would have to be something like where I'm like, I don't want to go 160 miles an hour. You know, like I would want it to be something that's slow enough where I could kind of take it in and enjoy it.
Good
You
point.
know, like when I went to like that Eddie Hall Bentley I drove for road and track, like a Le Mans car from the 30s, where the controls are familiar enough where I don't need too many of the 100 points. You know, that Bentley from the 30s was like 200 horsepower. It had brakes that worked. The 4-speed gearbox was the layout that I'm used to. The pedals were where they were. It was very old, very cool, very historically significant, but I could also kind of just hop in it and drive it. And it made a cool sound, and it looked cool, and it would give people a thrill to see it. But I would also be going slow enough where I could kind of have time to take in the experience.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm going to go the other way, like a moron, and go Lotus 25. Jim Clark's
like
car.
Jim Clark
that
car?
he
Yeah,
won.
no pressure.
No pressure. Just because I think the sound of it, it's so open. Like you're exposed to all the elements. You can see the tires moving, everything about it. It sound incredible. It would be too fast, and I'd have to remember to not try to do anything too dumb. But it just seems like it suits the environment so well, and it would be such sensory overload.
Yeah.
And I think, and I might be speaking out of school, that I could at least get up the hill in that without, dying and spinning around. Whereas I don't want to say like, an Ayrton Senna F1 car, because there's no way I could handle that.
Right.
So
hi, they like our cars. And this
the
little,
people like the car.
That Ford Focus or Fiesta hatchback
Fiesta
there.
Z-Tech.
We never got that Fiesta. That's a cool Fiesta. Those were the rally cars. But yeah, no, if like the Jim Clark, so that's a car that's a mechanical grip car. It's not a downforce car.
Correct.
So you probably could drive that car. Okay, and Jensen drove that car.
And me and him are like the
well,
same.
no, but he said it was one of the nicest handling cars he'd ever driven.
Yeah.
To a point. So, like, I believe him, and like, if he says a car handles well, like, I feel like I could probably get in it and drive it. Like, how hard could it be?
Yeah, and it's not, like you said, not a downforce car.
Oh,
That's something I
you see
no
that
experience.
DB6?
Negative.
Dude, people drive fucking dope shit here. I have seen at least as many awesome cars on this lap around England as I see in a lap around California. I mean, really, and considering how much it rains here, it's really impressive. The people drive their stuff here. They are not pussies.
Yeah, at least not the ones we've
Great.
seen.
Okay,
All right.
thanks, Gunnar.
Alex Berman says, we already, sorry, we covered that. That was about left-hand drive, right-hand drive. David wants me to expand on my cars and bids video. For people listening, I did a review of a 2001 Impreza 2.5 RS that had an STI swap.
Looked pretty
I did it
nice.
for cars and
In
bids.
photos, it looked nice.
It was pretty good. It needs, in my opinion, just needs a different color wheel set.
Oh,
Paint
well,
those wheels, and then
what
you're
color were
pretty
the
good.
wheels?
Yeah, red.
Oh, black with red wheels?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's personal choice. Black Subaru, you got to go bronze.
Oh, for sure.
Gotta go
It
gold.
would look amazing, and you
Yeah.
can just refinish those wheels. But yeah, they want to do more modified cars, also cars that are being featured in the auction. and Doug doesn't like
Another Aston
modified
Martin.
cars. So
That
he
was an
has to
Aston
do it.
Martin V8 Vantage Volante. What is going on? Is there an Aston Martin Drive?
Well, there's a factory nearby.
Oh, that's true. We're near Gaydon, aren't we?
We're not too far from Gaydon.
Oh,
but also,
okay.
I mean, it's, I think they have some pride about the cars they build here. We asked the audience yesterday at the live show, do people we're getting a lot of thumbs up in the Emira, and we asked, is that because people are proud of the car that came from their country here, or they just like supercars? And they said, no, we like seeing Lotuses out because we know that they're built here.
Yeah, and
Astons too.
And as we've learned, in a Lotus, unlike a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, you're not a wanker.
Yeah, it's an approachable car in terms of price. It's expensive, but it's not $400,000 or $300,000.
Speaking of cars and bids, did you see on Cars and Bids that somebody bought that shit pile smart car for $30,000?
I want to know, if you're listening, tell me why. Is it a business thing? Are you going to use it for marketing? Is it your wacky flailing arm inflatable tube man because it's so ugly? Like, what's the point?
Here's what I can guarantee. I can guarantee the person who bought it did not drive it first.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It drove horrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
It's very rare you can drive a car that's on the auction block.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I think I'm the second biggest loser on earth because I got rid of that thing. I seized it from a customer, from a fucking deadbeat, and I sold it for like, I think I got $8,000 for it. Sold it. Fucking get it out of here. I don't ever want to look at this thing again. That dude who I sold it to flipped it for 12. Okay, fine. I felt like a little bit of a sucker. And then the guy he flipped it to, not even a year later, sells it on Cars and Bids for 30.
But did you think it was worth 30?
No, because I was in its presence for a year and it was junk.
So I don't think you're dumb. I think you assessed its value correctly.
No, its value is what someone's willing to pay for it. If I had photographed it, marketed it on auction, and pretended like it was nice, like the person who was marketing it at Cars and Bids did, which it was not nice, it was a piece of junk, then I could have gotten 30 grand and bought myself a new fucking Rolly or something nice.
I just think it's a very silly
On the other
car.
hand, a bird in the hand.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's
A
what I'm
bird
saying,
in the
of course.
hand, fucking cashish, take it, make it disappear.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's always easy, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I should have done this.
That's why I say I'm the second biggest loser. The biggest loser is the person who paid $30K for that car.
I just want to know what they're going to do with it. Like, are you a billionaire and you went, that'll be fun, and you were drunk and you hit buy? Or do you have an actual idea for this car?
That's what the deadbeat did that stuck it with me.
Right.
This guy fucking clearly bought it drunk without doing any diligence, thought he could export it to his home country without learning anything about export laws, and then abandoned it at my place once he realized that he was not intending to comply with any export laws. And that's how I ended up with it. But you know what? Some people just have too much fucking money.
All right, Anders Torgerson says, what regular cars unavailable in the U.S. piqued our interest in the U.K.? Hot hatches, German wagons, French cars, etc.
We answered this in the live at Caffeine and Machine show. So first you should go listen to that because it was good. It was a very fun show. I really recommend it. I like the Mercedes C-Class Estate, which we don't get, the C-Class wagon.
Great looking car.
It's a bummer that we don't get that. What they call I guess it's the third generation, the last Exige with the V6 that we didn't get, the supercharged V6, like the blue one that was there yesterday, or the one Russell from Lotus owns, which is on my Instagram, the orange one. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And also, like, you know, their Fiestas, they still
they have the 3-door Fiesta ST.
Yeah, 3-door
Oh, I saw a red one.
ST.
That was awesome.
A couple of GR Yaris's at Caffeine and Machine. They're cool.
Yeah, they're really small. That'd be very fun.
Yeah, that's a great British B-road car, I think.
I don't know. They just have a lot of good-looking hatchbacks. Like, I've just seen cars driving around that are, for what, you know, they're usually Renaults or Megans that we don't get there, but they just have a very good aesthetic to them.
Yeah.
I don't know what else is driving.
The 1 Series BMW hatchback.
Oh, I love that car.
Those are cool.
And we saw one that was modified, lowered, had tint, black roundel, like that. I think that is such a good-looking car.
Yeah, those were neat. I never understood. Well, I understood, but I was bummed that we never got that.
Yeah, you get that with a 135i engine.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, those are cool.
That's like a cheaper shooting brake from an expensive company.
Yeah, and of course the Alpine.
Yeah.
Not Alpina, the Alpine A110.
I DM'd David too. He has not responded yet.
Okay.
Hopefully he does by the end of this show.
All right.
David, wake up. I don't know where you are. I think it's going to land somewhere in the middle. Alan Johnson says, great job on the RS5 video. It made me wonder that when cars are offered with both a manual and a good automatic, does the automatic being overlooked diminish its value? Example he uses is the CT5's Blackwing. Those cars are looked at as great with the manual, but the 10-speed's actually pretty good too.
Wait, so what is the question? Does it diminish its value? What do you mean?
I think when people focus so much on the manual transmission version, are we then overlooking a very good car with a very good automatic as a result?
Well, we're focusing on the manual transmission because the fact that it exists at all is very important culturally. It is important as an achievement from GM and whoever else builds these cars with manual gearboxes, and to people who like driving manual, the ability to buy a brand new ultra high performance car with a stick is awesome. And I don't personally like look down on somebody for buying the automatic one. If you want a sedan to drive every day, like, yeah, okay, buy the automatic. Like, nothing wrong with the 10-speed. It's actually pretty good. But sure, the manuals overshadow, and for good reason. That's a hardcore enthusiast variant that deserves our attention and respect.
Yeah. It's about scarcity, right? Things that tend to be scarce get more attention or are given more value. So I think that's part of it. But there are some cars, Shelby GT500, the new one, that I don't think would be better with a manual transmission. I think it's a lot of power, it's a good automatic, and it's fun to drive with that transmission because you can keep your hands on the wheel and probably extract more of the power and performance than you would if you had to take your hand off, shift the car, stuff like that. And sometimes it adds a fun element. You can rip off upshifts while doing a burnout, stuff like that. That's hard to do in a manual.
Right.
Rare case, but yeah. We covered that. Sorry. Okay, Tony Rodriguez Salgado. If you can choose a car or cars to do fun, big power slides with, which car would it be?
Fun, big power slides?
Fun, big power slides.
Probably like a Hellcat Charger.
I think the CT5V Blackwing is actually excellent for that.
Yeah.
Long wheelbase, big power. I mean, that's a good steering feel.
Yeah.
That one's awesome.
That would do really well. I did long, big power slides in the last CTSV, which is actually quite a rare car. I see very, very few of those. The last gen CTSV, they did not sell a lot of those, and it, I think, partially because it wasn't available with a manual transmission. I think a lot of times they sell automatic ones because people want the manual and they hear about it because of the manual, but then they can't get a manual, and so they get an automatic, and then they learn later that it's good. I think the fact that a manual wasn't available on the last gen CTSV hurt the sales of the automatic. Also, it had Q.
Yeah, that was a big demerit.
Yeah, Q was big point against.
Matthew Carmody says, Farah, what's the best story of damaging a car, either your car or a press car, that will make Lotus clench when they realize we're borrowing their car for a week?
Best? Well, there aren't a lot of good stories of damaging cars. I mean, look, I would say that it is very rare for me to damage a car in regular driving. I'm a pretty safe driver on the roads. I'm attentive and I have respect for the car and for other people around me, and I don't do anything that's too stupid. Anytime I've damaged a car in my adult life that I can remember has been on a racetrack while seeking out limits. And occasionally I've gone overboard and damaged a car in a way, and I was very apologetic about it in every case, and in a couple cases written checks. And so I don't think Lotus should worry about me driving their cars at all, nor should anybody else. I take responsibility for my behavior, and
ambulance behind us.
Oh, shit. Thank you for that spot.
Yeah. I was wondering why the Mercedes turned its hazards on.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Again, 100 points, right? Focused on the podcast.
Right.
Did not see the ambulance coming up behind me. Hopefully, I didn't hold up their pace by too much. Yeah, right. And like, I mean, I accidentally tagged a GoPro that was in the middle of the road in a VF, in the supercharged VF Huracan.
Oh yeah.
STO. And I scuffed their front bumper a little bit and destroyed the GoPro and the mount. And I was sorry about that too. And that one, I was distracted by that guy who was following us, remember?
Yeah, that's true.
There was a guy who was following us while we were shooting and driving back and forth in between our shot. And I really got distracted by that guy. But I don't know, can you think of any time I broke anything badly? I don't really think I...
No, you're very careful.
I have. I'm usually very
careful person.
I don't like breaking stuff. I'm not that guy.
No, it's stressful and sometimes expensive.
Yeah.
All right, JM says, this is kind of a funny one. I have to read the response also. You'll know why. He says, opinions, please. I've got 3 1984 Honda City Turbo 2s that need restoration. Are they all worth saving as factory OEM, or should I make one a great example out of the 3 of them and then mid-engine convert another one for fun? And Aaron's response is, you are asking the wrong people.
Yeah. What a Honda City Turbo 2?
Honda City Turbo 2.
What is that?
Exactly.
Is that a K car?
I don't know. I gotta use your juice.
I mean, you know, like a let's just assume it's like I would say it's probably better to make one. Let's forget that it's a City Turbo 2.
It's very small.
It's a K car. Okay, yeah. So I would say you should, with what you've got, make one amazing one, make one a running driver example, and then have a parts car.
An amazing one, like a restored to stock amazing?
Yeah,
or
like take whatever parts you need to build the best one that you can, right? Out of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then take the remaining parts to try to build a decent one. And then if one has to be sacrificed as parts to build 2, a great one and an okay one, that's what you should do.
Like a driver and a museum car.
Yeah.
Gotcha. They make 110 horsepower. That's a lot for that little thing.
Fucking going, baby.
That's pretty good for a car that's small. Are you garbage if you didn't know the Honda S660 production ended in March of 2022? Hachi Machi Miata hairdresser coming through.
I mean, that's a nice Are You Garbage crossover, but Well, I mean, we talked about the S660, but did I talk about it like it was still in production or
I think
something?
we hadn't seen one before. We actually saw one at Goodwood. It was at a like an importer's tent.
It looked awesome.
It does look awesome.
It looked fucking cool.
A tall gentleman was trying one on for size, and you could tell he was like, "Huh, will I fit in this? Where do I put my wallet?"
It looked very cool, and I think it would be a fun car to own.
Small mid-engine, be really fun.
It was really neat.
Michael Cosgrove, UK journalists on foreign press launches always mention how worse the road. Oh, we actually did cover this, didn't we?
How much worse the roads are in the UK?
Yeah, we covered this exact topic.
Press launches are. We did cover it, but we'll address the specific nature of the question. Press launches is the term that we need to pay attention to there. Those are idealized routes.
Well, no. His question was, UK journalists say that their roads in the UK are much worse than the roads relative to where the launch is.
Right, because the press launch is somewhere with specifically good roads. If I was planning a press launch, I would plan the press launch on amazing roads. And so, if you look at your whole country, if I go, well, the roads in America are worse than the roads I drove in Monaco on the DB12 launch, it's like, because someone who makes $250,000 a year went to Monaco with the explicit task of putting together a road that will show off the DB12's handling in the best light. So, grass is always greener, bro, especially on a press launch.
Especially when the grass has been selected from other plots of grass. Terry Hayward, have you been sampling any classic British foods while you are there, such as the full English breakfast or Sunday roast?
I'm not impressed with the English breakfast.
I don't get it. You get one egg, a tomato, a mushroom, and some beans that usually we'd serve with a hot dog in America. And you're starting your day off with, in my opinion, like an odd selection of foods that cause a lot of farting in the office. And the scrambled eggs here are overcooked also. It's a choice thing. It's a choice thing, but they're a little rubbery.
To me, it's not actually been the particular items on the plate that are weird, because you could probably get something pretty similar in America. It's that individually, those items aren't, in our experience here so far, prepared in a very good way.
I mean, they're not prepared in a way that we're used to. Like, let's talk about your bacon for a second.
It's not great.
Your bacon is like an elephant ear. It's very floppy. It's cooked through, but
it's not crispy.
It's somewhere between like the ham you'd put on a sandwich and a slice of prime rib in terms of texture, which I don't get. And surely someone has at some point left the pan on too long and crisped it up, and I guess you sent them all to America, because that's how our bacon is. But
the sausage and the beans, kind of under-seasoned in the 3 English breakfasts I've had. The eggs, like Zach said, overcooked. We actually commented yesterday while eating what most would consider a very high-end breakfast at Goodwood, that we wished we were at a Denny's.
It was very expensive breakfast.
It was a very expensive breakfast. It was probably $100.
Yeah, it was.
And I shit you not, any Denny's would smoke these fools in breakfast. This wasn't like it wasn't even like the breakfast that you would get if you were a regular ticket holder. It was like the VIP white tablecloth, yes ma'am breakfast.
Yes, which we had to pay for.
Which we did have to pay for.
And it was $100.
Yeah.
And
they brought us a check after our coffee, and then another check after our food.
That was interesting.
Because they didn't trust us.
Well, they saw that you were wearing New Balance. They're like, he can run.
They thought we were going to dine and dash after the coffee.
Yeah.
We're going to have fish and chips tonight. I've been wanting to have one fish and chips on this. Actually, we shout out to what's the name of the town?
Oh, Winchester.
No. Well, not Winchester. Where were the other town?
Which meal? Which meal we're talking about? Oh, Cheshire. Yeah.
Cheshire, where we had two fantastic meals.
Yes.
The Thai and the Indian, fucking ace, bro.
Lemongrass Thai food, and I think mandala Indian.
Masala King. Is it called?
Yeah.
I think it was called Masala King.
Both excellent.
Fucking ace.
The best food here came from somewhere else.
Yes, former colonies, if you will.
Oh my God. 283 Never Forget asks, which one of your cars are most suited for British roads, and what would you change to make it better suited if you had to change anything?
Well, I have 2 right-hand drive cars, so I think that might work.
I mean, I would need softer springs to make. Some of the B roads around here are like.
Yeah, but in general, the E46 M3 is a good car. Would be a good car.
On the M or A roads, it would be excellent.
Last night at Caffeine and Machine, I met an American soldier who came to the show. Who I think was in Air Force, and.
Is he left here from World War II? Did he need a ride?
He doesn't know the war is over. And no, he was on one of the bases around here, and he has an E46 M3, and he said it's like perfect for driving around.
I bet it is. These roads are nice. And we met Phil from Driftworks,
right?
Who I had seen his viral car before I knew he was the person that made it. But it's an E46 with an S65 swap, and he did the 8-to-1 header that like the header collects in the front of the car. Have you seen this photo? It's just this barrel of snakes that collects into the one and then goes back out the back. And it looks, I mean, it's amazing fabrication work. He does a lot of stuff like that. But I was like, oh, you're the wizard behind this Oz. Very cool.
Other than the right-hand drive cars, I mean, which of my cars would work best?
Dude, I think
I think the Porsche would be great. I also think the Ferrari 328 would be great. I think that'd be a nice car to drive around.
NSX
is a little low.
Is it?
Yeah, it's lower than stock.
We haven't seen many speed bumps here.
It might be okay. It might be okay. Yeah.
Luke Talion says, Matt, you have often talked about admiring Seiko diver value for money, as well as thinking Grand Seikos are great watches.
Yes.
With that in mind, what are your opinions on upmarket Seiko divers like the Marine Master 300s, SLA 25s?
Yeah.
They are not branded as Grand Seiko, but fall under the normal marquee.
Right. So Seiko and Grand Seiko, there's some crossover. You can get some Seiko divers that are very expensive, like where if you saw it on someone's wrist and you go, oh, that's a nice watch. How much did you pay for it? And someone was like, $4,500. You'd go, for a Seiko? But it has the goods. It's got a really good case and a really good movement and really good design, and there's no real great reason for it not to be a Grand Seiko at that point, other than it wasn't made at the Grand Seiko factory. It was made at the Seiko factory. So they're amazing watches, and if I see someone wearing one, like straight up, like respect, I'm about it. But I don't think that's where the real value for money is. I think the real value for money in the Seiko divers is in the stuff that's like sub $1,000, because you're still getting a really durable, well-made, cool-looking piece. And if you're going to spend $3,000 to $5,000, you might as well go for the Grand Seiko. But they're still very nice.
All right, Prashan. Would you rather drive a flaming hot Cheeto hatch like a Maurizio Edition or a Renault with a half cage, or a Miata / GR86 on a British B road?
I mean, I don't want a hatchback that doesn't have hatchback usability. So I don't want a hatchback with a cage. I don't want a hatchback with 2 seats. The point of a hatchback is to have some functionality back there. So
I think the Maurizio might be too stiff.
Yeah,
too. I would go 86.
Yeah,
I love that car.
I'll take like a regular GR Corolla. That would be fun, or a Fiesta ST would be great. But I would not want to abandon the functionality of the hatchback. Yeah, can we get a little airflow going?
Yeah, I turned it off because I was worried about it hitting the mic and making sounds.
Dude, I'm much more worried about sweating my bolas off than I am about these fine folks hearing a little airflow.
Danny said, no,
well, what happened there?
Question.
Automatic wipers have automatic wipes for some reason.
Christopher asked any tips for people planning to attend festival speed like hotels. We kind of covered the event. I think hotels, we only saw one of them. Seems like there aren't many in the area, so I don't really know.
I mean, the dopest way to do it seems to me like RV.
Yeah?
RV with a sidecar. Like with a car.
Oh,
so
like
you
a
can
car?
leave if you have to.
Yeah,
but like
or a motorbike or something.
Then you don't have to deal with like parking. You don't have to deal with hotels per se and finding restaurant reservations. You have the option to just be on site. You could go back to your RV during the day and then come back somewhere nice to poop maybe. Pooping is something you do not want to have to do in Goodwood. Their bathrooms, by Coachella standards, their bathrooms are all right. But by, any other standard, not so good.
I did not investigate the thrones at the track.
I saw the lines. The lines to shit at 9 a.m. were, especially because I was doing 5-6 coffees a day. Oof. Not trying to be part of that business. But you don't want a tent camp. Fucking that wind was blowing.
Oh yeah, 60 miles per hour. You gotta be tented between two cars and you'll be all right. I did hear there's a university down the road that rents out some of the dorms, like the suites, as a hotel, and some of the OEMs took it over as well. That seems like that would be a fun place to be.
Yeah.
That's like a college full of car people. Austin Medelsky, thoughts on the Caterham EV?
Nope. Here's two things nobody fucking needs.
I think we've all been wanting a lighter EV for a long time, and now they're giving us one that's like 3,000 pounds and looks pretty cool. So, as a choice, I like having the choice.
I just don't want a Caterham. And if I did want a Caterham, I would want it to be
but it doesn't look
as
like
engaging. Oh, you mean that
the round thing?
Oh, the round thing.
The Cayman thing.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool, sure.
The Caterham.
Yeah, knock yourself out. It's like a Cater almond.
Let's see. This is an interesting question. Siamese sports cat enthusiast. What 2+2 delivers the most roadster-like driving experience? By that, I mean small, light, tossable, fun, even at 6/10ths. Prioritizes fizz over test numbers.
911 convertible. Right? I don't know of a better soft top sports car than a 911 convertible.
Not if you need a 2+2.
Yeah. Everything else is front engine.
And everything else, the really fun roadsters tend to not have 4 seats.
Right.
Like Miata,
there's some good 4-seat GTs that are nice, but if you want fizz, it's got to be a 911 convertible.
Yeah. If you want fizz with soft top, that's true. That's kind of the only thing. Yes, we have. Yep.
Maybe it's not new, but maybe like a BMW E30, like a 325i convertible with some suspension
on it. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, that could be fun.
But if you really want fizz,
it's got to be a 911.
It's got to be a 911.
Yeah.
Joe asks, is there any more appeal to a muscle car than to look cool and sound great? I want a Plymouth GTX, but I know they all drive like doo-doo. I think you kind of nailed it.
Yeah, that's it.
They look cool, they sound good. That's it. They don't do many other things well unless you put a lot of money into them, but there is an attitude to them that I feel like is very unique to the muscle car.
Yeah.
Richard Duck, what is the best Porsche to get for someone that's fiscally conservative? I can afford $70,000 to $80,000, but I definitely like spending a lot less. Is the older Cayman the answer?
Well, fiscally conservative. If you're that concerned with your finances, the best Porsche to get is the one that will depreciate the least over time, or even possibly appreciate, right? Because it's not about your buying price, it's about your total investment cost. So the car that will depreciate the least, be fairly easy on consumables, be pretty reliable, have reasonable servicing costs, reasonable insurance costs. That leads me to something like a 997 Carrera GTS, where you get a lot of the performance of the GT3, but focused in a more like road-going package. Doesn't need quite as much specialized maintenance. It's at either the bottom or on the upswing of the depreciation curve. Because it's not a GT3, the insurance probably won't be as high. 911s in a lot of ways are cheaper to maintain than Caymans because the engine has to come out for more in a Cayman. So I would say probably something like that. Money in, money out. And I think 80 grand will probably get you one. But it's about that both sides of the math. It's not just how much do I spend, because you're parking it, you're not spending it.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. The way to look at it, instead of looking at I'm throwing away $70,000.
Yeah.
You know, you can just put it somewhere for a while.
Yeah. It's how do I enjoy this $70,000? I type my code in.
Yeah.
How do I enjoy this $70,000 and keep a majority of it over time?
Yeah.
You know.
You can pull up.
Buying cars is like not a good way to invest your money, but you can do it in a way that is savvy enough where it won't just fly out the window. New battery.
We were answering the question, end of the book. So he wants an enthusiast car for commuting in LA, 35 to 40 grand. Doesn't need to be fast because this person has a motorcycle. So they don't want a Camry hybrid or a Prius.
Can't believe I'm saying this, but you should probably just get a Model 3. I mean,
yeah, they're very good. Or a Y.
It's got pretty good dynamics. It's good in traffic. It's,
and the prices come down again?
The prices, slightly used one, I guess. But like a 330e, to me, which was his suggestion, is sort of like the worst of all worlds.
Right, you don't get the charging infrastructure of Tesla.
Yeah, and you don't
get BMW, maybe headaches.
It's just not. It's not an actual enthusiast. There's nothing about a 330e that's enthusiast oriented. I'd rather have a 230i M Sport. At least that's light and agile. And small,
right,
and could be fun in the canyons if you wanted to go up there.
Right. If they want to go EV, then they go with a Tesla. It's better at being an appliance.
Yeah.
Whereas the 330e is an appliance wearing the badge of a brand that used to be enthusiast oriented, or sometimes is,
but isn't really.
Yeah. Will has a watch question. Any recommendations on how to find excellent independent service shops for Seiko through Rolex, or specifically in the Bay Area? But how do you go out and find the shop that you trust?
You're not going to believe this. I Google independent watch service followed by the city that you're in.
And then you look at the reviews to see.
Yes. Yes.
What's Google?
Amazing, right? I mean, that's literally how I would do it. If you're in the Bay Area, I would call one of the well-known vintage retailers and ask them. The one that I know that is good in the Bay in San Francisco is HQ Milton. I would literally call HQ Milton and ask them where to get your watch serviced, and they'll probably tell you. Yeah.
Wow.
What? It's a Skoda, and
that's a Passat in lime green.
Very green.
It is not good.
It's very green. It's weird that Skoda gets a lot of the their slightly rebodied Volkswagen stuff, because Volkswagen's here too.
Yeah.
But just are there Jettas here and Passats? I don't know if I've seen any Jettas or Passats.
I've seen a lot of Polos and GTIs. That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe they don't sell it here.
I wonder if it's actually a Skoda first, and we just get it as a Volkswagen. I wonder if my nationalism has really caked my vision of what that car is.
So do you think the VW Passat is Like the Infinity to Nissan?
Maybe, or just like they just, yeah. If it was designed to be a Skoda first, but then they're like, these Americans will buy it as a Volkswagen.
I mean, you mean like the modern one, or going all the way back to like Passat's invention?
I don't know.
I think Passat came out with it first.
I think Passat was first also, but
nowadays with platform sharing.
Are we exiting?
All right, final question from Jonathan Blum. He says, it's been said that a driver with, quote, quick hands can keep a car from looping. The implication is that an experienced driver can prevent a big problem. Is the lack of quick hands the thing that causes Mustang drivers to crash when they are accelerating from a stop while leaving a car meet? Or is the quick hands reaction only useful when the back starts getting fussy while going at speed around a corner? And so those Mustang folks have some other deficiency that they need to fix, not quick hands.
Quick hands is not a good term because it implies like moving the wheel really fast is the solution, and that's not really the solution usually. It's like quick reaction times. It's hands and feet, and also just like an understanding of weight transfer, because like if you look at like someone in Formula Drift, like a professional drifter, their hands aren't always moving that quick. It's not necessarily like, sometimes it's actually their hands are moving slowly.
Yeah.
You know, but their perception of how the weight is moving around in the car is acute.
I think it depends on the situation. Like you watch rally drivers, oftentimes, especially on tarmac stages, their hands are moving very quickly and they're catching little slides. But we also don't always see their feet, so we don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Are they lifting, which then slows down the rear tires so then they can hook up? So with the Mustang people that are crashing Mustangs, it could be their hands, it could be their feet. It's probably a mix of both. I think if they're whacking the throttle on a crowned road, the rear wheels start to spin, the back starts coming out. If they don't know how to deal with that situation, and with either the gas pedal or their hands, then that's why they're going to spin or hit things, because they just don't know what to do. They're expecting a dead straight burnout, and when that goes awry, suddenly they don't know how to react. But I think in that case, if you're doing a burnout and it starts to walk a little bit, the recipe is usually both your hands and feet making adjustments. It's not just the quick hands.
Yeah, and a lot of times when you see a car attempt to do a burnout or a slide and then slap back the other way and loop into a parked car or a telephone pole or something, that comes from the specific cause of that is very often coming off the throttle too quickly. The back end is loose, the tires are spinning. If you lift quickly, they will catch and slap the other way. And
right, because if the wheels are spinning and the car is angled, you have like a spring of energy. And when you lift off the throttle, all the weight goes on the front tires. The front tires have more of the grip, like the 100 points. And now the rear tires have 20% of the grip. But the energy has to go somewhere, and it's going to catapult and fling you around.
Right. So it's like the actual, that's why the concept of quick hands doesn't apply to that situation so well, because actually what you should do there is slow down unwinding the wheel and slow down lifting off the throttle and draw that skid out longer, and then you can slowly bring it back to being straight and in control. If you very quickly lift off the throttle and very quickly try to catch the wheel, you get a very big, what they call tank slapper the other way, and then you spin. Then now you're out of control. Now you're not catching.
I remember when we were filming Proving Grounds, I was watching Lee Keane, who's amazing at sliding cars, regardless of where the engine is. And his exits are so tidy, and the car just slides across the corner and then just heads perfectly straight. And he literally put his tire on a quarter we put on the ground. And I asked him, how are the end of your drifts so gentle in the way your car straightens out? Because I would usually slide and then kind of wag back and forth a little bit. And he would let off the throttle a little bit, and as the car straightens, then he actually was adding gas back in to shoot the car forward.
Right. So as you're straightening out, you're not lifting off the gas to bring it back, you're actually going in it harder to keep the weight on the rear while unwinding the wheel.
Yeah, lifting gently slows the wheels and helps it grip, but then once you're pointed straight, at least in that situation Lee was talking about, you're adding throttle to then propel you forward.
Yeah, it's like if you're unprepared to add throttle, then at the very least you want to reduce your throttle very gently.
Yep.
If you have the skill and the experience and also the bravery to get the car sideways, hold it sideways, and then add throttle to straighten it, you should do that. But what you should absolutely not do is a quick, sharp lift because you panicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand why people do it, but it's not just hands that are going to save you in that situation.
Right.
It's all kinds of things. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this drive to Hethel. We are not almost there. How far are we? We are, Zack had to disconnect me from CarPlay, so I don't know where we are. We're 54 miles away, so we still have about an hour to drive, which should be nice and beautiful today. And next time we see y'all, we'll be back in the studio in America. Bye.